Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So it's July 5th, 2014 in Soho Street, right at London Ishwara's Temple in London, and we're reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Madhya Lila, the Lord travels to Vrindavan. Text 143. Ateva Krishna Namana Aishe Tada Mukhe Mayavadi Ganayate Mahabharhi Mukhe Ataeva. Therefore, Krishna Nama, the holy name of Krishna, Na, does not, Aishe, come, Tada Mukhe, in their mouths, Mayavadi Gane, all the Mayavadis, Yate, because, Mahabhahi Mukhe, great offenders by dint of strong atheism. What does Mahabhahi Mukhe mean literally? Maha means great. Bahi? External. We say Bahir Nisingo, Ridaye Nisingo. Bahi means external. Mukhe means mouth or face or head or chief. Okay. So Bahir Mukhe means you're turning your head away. Your attention is external. Say if you're looking at you and then I'm looking away from you. So Bahir Mukhe is I'm looking away from you. I have that. Turning away. Yes. It's you're absorbed in something external. Instead of being absorbed in the internal energy, you absorb Bahir Mukhe, you're absorbed in the external energy. Maha Bahir Mukhe, they're greatly absorbed. So which Prabhupada translates as being great offenders by dint of strong atheism. Okay, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation: because the Mayavadis are great offenders and atheistic philosophers, the holy name of Krishna does not come from their mouths. Purport: because they are constantly blaspheming. That's pretty extreme, constantly blaspheming the Supreme Personality of Godhead by saying that he has no head, hands, or legs. Mayavadi philosophers remain offenders for many, many births, even though they have partially realized Brahman. So, how long does it take these people to come to Krishna consciousness? Many, many births. Many, many births. However, if such impersonalists are not offenders at the lotus feet of the Lord, they immediately become devotees in the association of a devotee. So, if they're not offenders, how long does it take them to become a devotee? Immediately. Instant. Quite a difference. Many, many lifetimes or immediately. In other words, if an impersonalist is not an offender, he can become a devotee if he gets a chance to associate with other devotees. If he is an offender, he cannot be converted even by the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? What's he doing when he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He's, or she, is doing what? Offending by? Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very much afraid of this Mayavadi offender, therefore he spoke as follows. Adaiva Krishna Nama Na Aishe Tada Mukhe, Mayavadi Gana Yate Maha Bahir Mukhe. Because the Mayavadis are great offenders and atheistic philosophers, the holy name of Krishna does not come from their mouths. So what is the difference here between many, 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 many lifetimes to achieve spiritual perfection and immediately achieving spiritual perfection? Might be a nice thing to know, right? So what would we like? Would we like to take many, 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 many lifetimes to achieve spiritual perfection? Or would we like it immediately? Immediately. Okay, very good. So what's the difference? What's the difference? Oh, here it says no. It says not. It says not. It says you can have the association of devotees, you can have the association of the Supreme Lord himself. Well, what is the difference? Not turning away. Yes. Okay? And turning towards means what? If I'm turning towards Krishna and the devotees, what does that mean?
Opening myself.
Opening myself. To what? What am I opening myself to?
The mercy.
The mercy of Krishna. That means I have what kind of, what's my feeling? What's happening internally? I want to serve Krishna. Now, there can be several reasons why I might want to serve somebody. I might want to serve somebody because, why? Why might I want to serve somebody?
Because I'm proud.
I'm proud, and they're a big person, and I want to be in their company. There's the queen, and I'm the follower of the queen. Okay? That might be one reason. What might be another reason why I want to serve somebody? To get something out of them. So, materially speaking, generally, not always, but generally, when we're serving someone in this world, is because we want something from them. Generally. Usually. We want something in exchange. We're looking for something. We're not particularly interested in serving them. We're not really interested in them. We're really interested in their energies. Now, if we're very low class, we're a thief and we just steal their energies. And if we're a little bit higher class, we bargain. We exchange. We pay. So I'll give you some service and you give me some of your energies. We're not interested in the person. We're interested in the energies of the person separated from the person. You all follow that? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? And that's not always, but our material relationships are generally like that. At least more or less. What's another reason you might want to serve somebody? To please them, simply to please them. Simply to make them happy. And we also experience that even in this world. Do we not? That sometimes we serve somebody simply to make them happy, not because we want their energies or we want their opulences. We don't want anything from them. We just simply want them to be happy. Their smile and their happiness is enough payment for us. And if we have been the agent of their happiness, that is our happiness. We simply want to be the agent of their happiness. So if you feel like that, if you're serving somebody simply for their happiness, simply to be the agent of their happiness, what kind of feelings do you have toward that person?
Loving feelings.
Loving feelings. What does love mean? What does it mean? What does that mean? I love somebody. What do we mean by that? Okay, but we started there. If I'm not asking for anything in return, if I love them, what is love? Not asking for anything in return. So that's, we call that in logic a tautology. Tautology.
Love means being selfless.
That you're going the same place, Prabhu. So that's again a tautology. That's fine, but it doesn't really answer the question. It's true, it's fine, it's correct, but it doesn't really answer the question. When can you be selfless? When you have love. What is love? Being selfless. So give me something else here. What do we mean by love?
Affection.
Affection. Okay, I have some feelings of affection. That helps a little bit.
Emotions.
Emotions. All right. There's some emotions involved. I'm not flat. My emotions are not flat. Okay.
Devotion.
What does that mean? This is hard, isn't it? I mean, shouldn't we know this? Yes? If this is the difference between millions of lifetimes and immediate, we ought to be able to figure out what this is. Yes? Yes? Okay, if we can't figure it out, if it's very vague.
Attraction.
Attraction. Good, yes.
If you love somebody, you want to find out what they like.
Oh, okay. So loving somebody involves some effort to find out what they like. Of course, you might do that if you were serving them for another purpose also. So if I'm serving you so that I'm basking in the aura of your fame, or so that you're going to give me some money, or whatever, I might also want to find out what you like. So just wanting to find out what you like is not sufficient, although it's necessary in love, but it's not sufficient. Yes. I mean, it's really a low level if I'm serving you in ways that I like. Jai Shishirada Lanjanishwar. Jai Jagannath Bhavam Subhadra Gaunitai. So if I'm serving you in ways that I like, that's not even going to be expeditious for getting something for myself. Right? So even if my reason for serving you is 100% selfish, I'm much more likely to get what I want if I serve you in ways that you like. You follow? It's doubly selfish if I'm serving you to get something for myself and I'm serving you in ways that please me only and that don't please you. That's really selfish. Yeah. I'm going to cook for you the food that I want you to eat, whether you like it or not, and I'm hoping that you'll give me something in exchange. So that's you're really far then. Anything else? Tell me something else about love.
Making them happy.
Making them happy. Okay, we're again going in a circle here.
It's pleasing relationship.
It's a pleasing relationship. Okay, I think now we're getting somewhere. So please, what makes it pleasing? Yes.
Thinking about them all the time.
You're thinking about them all the time. Of course, again, you can be thinking about someone all the time for reasons other than love.
Right.
That's entirely possible. I can be thinking about you all the time because I'm very scared. And I think you might hurt me and I'm really worried about it. I can be thinking about you all the time because I'm very angry. Or I can be thinking about you all the time because I want to exploit you. You know, I'm sure some of these psychopathic killers become obsessed with their intended victims. Yes? Yes, or some burglar, they become obsessed with their intended victim. They're the rich person staying in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in room 375, and we're going to rob them of their jewels at 11 o'clock tonight. And they're absorbed in thinking of that person. So it is very possible to be absorbed in thinking of somebody for reasons other than love. So that's another necessary but not sufficient condition. Okay?
Is emotions?
Well, definitely there's emotions involved. There's definitely emotions involved. It's definitely not flat. Yes?
Being concerned to lose the social. Being concerned to lose the opportunity to associate.
Okay, being concerned to lose the opportunity to associate. Now again, that could also be involved in something that wasn't loving. I might really, really, really want to be with you for other reasons. Yes?
Unconditional. See, when you do something, you're acting something, it's not for yourself, you're doing it for that person.
Okay, we're going right back to our original definition then. We're going right back in. This is hard, isn't it? Is this hard? This is not easy. Yes?
You want their highest good.
You want their highest good. Okay, I really like that. So not only do you want them to be happy and do you find happiness at their happiness, but you want a happiness for them that really benefits them. You don't want a happiness for them that's going to harm them. Excellent, excellent. You want their highest good. Really nice. Beneficial.
You want to share it?
Oh, excellent also. You really want to share. So in other relationships, you don't really want to share, you really want to take. Huh? You actually want to take, and you're doing just some superficial sharing. You can take without stealing. Huh? But if there's love, you genuinely want to share. Genuinely want to share means you genuinely care about what they think and how they feel. I'm sure we've all been in a situation where someone is telling us how they think and how they feel and we don't care at all. And we are just listening because we have some other reason to be listening. Yes? There's some other particular reason that we feel that it is our duty to listen, but we really don't care. So a loving relationship, we genuinely care. We're enjoying hearing the other person reveal their mind and their heart. We're taking pleasure in that. And the other person enjoys hearing from us. So that's another sign of love, is we're getting pleasure in the other person's association, in getting to know the other person and getting to be the other person. We find that very enjoyable. So we want to be around them, not to get something from them, but just simply to be with them. We enjoy their company. This is why the devotees are praying for the ecstatic symptoms, because the ecstatic symptoms indicate to Krishna, I enjoy your company. I like seeing you. I like being with you.
Could say also it's what's called pleasing exchanges.
Okay, very pleasing exchanges. All right, again, I think that's necessary but not sufficient, because you might want to please somebody for an ulterior motive. But yes, it's going to be pleasing. Also, we have this word attachment. Maya Shakta Manaprata, a Shakti, attachment. So love involves some sense of attachment. You matter to me. It matters to me if you're here or not. If you live or die makes a difference to me. You're not irrelevant. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world who I have some affection for, I like being with, I'm happy if they're happy. I try to make them happy. I try to make them happy with the greatest good. But to be perfectly and completely honest, if they died tomorrow, it would make very little difference to my life. Do you all have people like that? You have some affection for them. You like to share things with them. You want them to be happy. You want their highest good. You're not trying to get anything from them. But they're not terribly important. It's not very important. You're not very attached to them. Yes? So real love, you're very attached. What do we become attached to? In fact, the stage of attachment, a Shakti, is preliminary to bhava and prema. You cannot enter into bhava and prema without attachment. So what do we mean by attachment? What does that mean? Yeah?
If we are absorbed in thoughts about a person, and if we are almost addicted to company of the person.
Okay, almost an addiction. I can't live without it. Just like an addict they can't live without whatever they're addicted to. And they're willing to sacrifice all kinds of things for the sake of their addiction. Right, so a very strong attachment is like that. A very, very strong attachment means that I really have to have this, and I'm willing to sacrifice all kinds of other things for this, and everything else disappears. Now, of course, if you're addicted to something material, that's a very nasty and horrible thing. But to be addicted to love with the perfect person is certainly something very wonderful. So it becomes, yes, very much like an addiction. Becomes that, just like I was reading not too long ago about if somebody's addicted to heroin or alcohol or some drug like this, that they lose the ability. Oh, I know. And what I was reading about it in the context of people who get addicted to pornography. One devotee had written me that he had a pornography addiction. So I was looking up some things to help him. That was the context. And it was saying that whenever you have an addiction like that what happens is you can't live without it. You just need it more and more and more. Of course, materially, it gives you less and less and less and less pleasure. So you have a greater and greater desire for something that gives you less and less and less pleasure. But it also said that you're willing to sacrifice anything else. You know, you'll steal from your friends, you'll damage your relationships, everything else. And also everything else loses its sparkle. You don't find pleasure in anything else. It removes your ability. And the article was talking about how the brain functions in an addiction. So something like this happens with love of God, where, sunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahename. If you're not there, the world is vacant. And Prabhupada gives us an example of transcendental illusion. He says, how is the world vacant? It's full of so many things. But as soon as you don't have that relationship with Krishna, everything else is empty. Everything becomes a shell. And if a person is really in love with Krishna, they're willing to sacrifice anything. The wives of the Brahmanas, they just left. They were very respectable people in society. They just left without any hope of returning. And many of us who joined the Hare Krishna movement, it was very much like that also, that we just, left our education, left our job, left our family, left everything, and okay, I'm just going to surrender to Krishna. So it's this sort of the real thing of this addiction. Attachment also means that I need you. I really need you. This kind of addiction again, I really need you. You really matter to me, as I was saying. It really matters to me whether you're alive or dead, whether you're here or not. My world revolves around it. You're everything to me. And I have a sense that you really need me. And people who analyze material loving relationships, they've talked about that love has three main features. I care about you, which is what we kept saying over and over again. And I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy. I selflessly want you to be happy. That you're important to me. You're very valuable to me. And ultimately, in love of God, you're the only thing that's valuable to me. There's nothing else that's valuable to me. Everything else becomes valuable to me in relationship to you. So, of course, when we love Krishna, because Krishna is everything, everything else also becomes valuable, interestingly enough. When you try to make things valuable separately from Krishna, it doesn't work. And when Krishna becomes the only thing that's valuable, nothing else is valuable, then everything else becomes valuable. Isn't that fascinating? So we have this song of Narottama Das Thakur, Sri Rupa Manjaripada. So he's singing to another devotee as that she's the most valuable person. Without seeing you, it's like being bitten by a snake. I can't bear to live without you, even for a moment. So as soon as Krishna becomes the only valuable thing, then all the devotees become valuable, then the whole spiritual world becomes valuable, then the material world becomes valuable, because it's Krishna's energy. Everything becomes valuable. And the other is, I'm there for you. I have your back. That's the other essence of love. When you need me, I'll be there for you. So this is the trust factor. You can count on me. I'm trustworthy. When you need me, I'm there. And that's what Krishna wants to know. When I need you, are you there? When I ask you to do some service, are you there? Or are you going to say, oh, I'm not advanced enough. Oh, it's too hard. Oh, I'm not surrendered enough. So we're looking let's go look briefly at the next verse, which doesn't have a purport, text 144. Mahaprabhu says, I've come here to sell my emotional, ecstatic sentiments in the city of Kashi, but I cannot find any customers. If they are not sold, I must take them back home. So this is the essence, these emotional, ecstatic sentiments, which is coming from the word bhava, bhava kali. So this is really the essence. This is really the essence. Attraction, attachment is what helps us to advance quickly. It's the active ingredient. The active ingredient is affectionate attachment, this emotion. And this is what, you think about it, these Mayavadis, they're, Prabhupada says here, partially Brahman realized. So you would think, wow, if you're partially Brahman realized, Krishna consciousness should be very easy. I mean, wow. That would be really nice to be partially Brahman realized, wouldn't it? We wouldn't feel the pains and pleasures of the body. We'd be equipoised. We'd be experiencing spiritual bliss. Wouldn't that be nice? But it doesn't do them any good. It doesn't do them any good. It's useless for them. Because they're missing the active ingredient. They give you some kind of medicine. The real thing is the active ingredient. And the active ingredient, the real accelerator, the active principle, is this attachment, this affectionate attachment for Krishna. That is what bhakti is. So I thought in looking at this verse, we'd look at Rupa Goswami's definition of what is bhakti. So do you all know this verse? Anyabilasita sunyam jnana karma anavritam anukulena krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttamam. So bhaktir uttamam, that line simply says, this is pure bhakti. And Rupa Goswami gives negative, what bhakti is not, what it has to not have, and then what it has to have. What is the most important word in that verse? Anukulyena. Anukulyena is this favorable. It means that there's some affectionate attachment. There's love, there's affectionate attachment. That's the active principle. That's the accelerator. That is the medicine. That's the essence of the medicine. That is what is bringing us to Krishna. That is what is freeing us of our material desires. That is what's revealing our eternal swarup and our eternal rasa with Krishna. That is what's bringing us entrance into the spiritual world. And nothing else. Nothing else. There may be other inactive ingredients, like we were talking the other day about the ashram system. That's like an inactive ingredient. You know, a medicine may have some things to deliver the active ingredient, huh? You follow? Most medicines are not just pure active ingredient. They have other things in them. So Varna and ashram, they're like that. They're a medium, an environment, but they're not the active ingredient itself. So in this context with being Brahman realized, we can just go through Rupa Goswami's verse. So, Anyabhilasita sunyam. You don't have any other desires. Well, this cannot mean that you don't absolutely have any other desires. Because if that's what it meant, then you could only be in pure bhakti once you're at prema. Nobody could be practicing pure bhakti. And that can't possibly be what Rupa Goswami means, because he has a whole book with it. In his book, he has a large section of that book about how to practice bhakti in Vaidhi sadhana and Raganuga sadhana. Yes, correct? Is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? There's so many chapters. How many? 14 chapters about Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and 2 chapters about Raganuga sadhana bhakti. So how could there be a sadhana bhakti? How could there be a practice bhakti? And Krishna talks about a practice bhakti also in the 12th chapter. He calls it abhyas yoga, practice yoga. How can you be doing practice yoga if you have to have no material desires from day one? That wouldn't make any sense. Because Krishna's already said that 4 kinds of people surrender to him, and those are all people with various desires. Are you all with me on this? Okay, so if someone says, first I have to have no material desires, and then I have to practice bhakti, then I can practice bhakti. That wouldn't make any sense as far as what the practice of bhakti is. So what does Anyabhilasita sunyam means? It means that your main purpose for coming to bhakti is not to fulfill a material desire. Just like we people come to churches and temples and mosques for the purpose of fulfilling a material desire. That's why they've come. Please help me pass my exams. Please help me get money. Please help me get... That's why they've come. That's the only reason they've come. They haven't come for any other reason. So that's not pure bhakti. If you've come to Krishna because you want pure devotional service, you want pure bhakti, you want love of God, even though there is still so many material desires in your heart, if your purpose for coming to Krishna is to awaken love of God, that's pure bhakti. Does that make sense to everybody? Just like if you have a good friend that you really love, and you're hanging out with your good friend just because you love your good friend. The fact that there are so many other material desires in your heart is irrelevant, isn't it? It just doesn't make any difference at all. So you're having fun with your good friend, and you're enjoying their company, and you just want them to be happy, but you also want, you know, a red car, sports car. But that has nothing to do with your relationship with your friend. It's irrelevant. Now, what are we supposed to do with our material desires, by the way? Definitely not contemplate on them, because then we go into the fall-down cycle. And what should we do with them? Give them to Krishna. Tell Krishna about them. Don't try to fulfill them separately from Krishna. Therefore it says whether you have all material desires, akama, sarvakama, mokshakama, udaradi, even if you have all material desires, go to Krishna for bhakti and simply say to Krishna, Krishna, I want a red sports car and a handsome husband and 10 million pounds, and I want to be the most famous person in the universe, and I want all these things. Can you please do whatever you want with this stuff? So that should be done. Otherwise, we'll try to fulfill those desires separately from Krishna. We won't be an honest relationship. But Krishna, I really want to love you. I really want to attain to the spiritual world. I really want to be your pure devotee. But I also have these other things. You know, please help me deal with them however you want. Please remove these desires from my heart however you want, either by just removing the desire or by fulfilling them in your service, or however you want to do it. That's your business, but you just take care of that. Then, jnana karma anavratam, not covered by jnana and karma. So that's very relevant to today's verse and purport. Because here we see that if you're partially or fully Brahman realized and then come with devotees, Krishna consciousness is instant. So we may think, well, all right, let me become Brahman realized first. And this is a very insidious but pervasive misconception that I find in the Hare Krishna movement. It's very pervasive. This concept that I can't get this emotional attachment to Krishna, this affectionate attachment for Krishna, which is the active principle and the accelerator, until I'm pure. First I have to be pure, and then I can be attached to Krishna. I run into this all the time. I mean, just a week or so ago, I was talking with one woman, she'd been a devotee about 3 years, and I said, you know, when you read the scriptures, when you're chanting, you should do so with attachment, to develop attachment for Krishna. And she says, oh, am I allowed to be attached to Krishna? So it's quite common that people will say, am I allowed to think about Krishna when I chant? Which is, you know, if you think about it, it's a very odd question. So you should always remember Krishna and never forget him, so except when you chant. Then you should forget him. So it's just very peculiar. Or it's like in the kirtan, if all of us did this bahir mukhe, you know, if we're chanting Hare Krishna in the kirtan, but everybody's just looking at the floor, because, oh my goodness, I can't possibly meditate on Krishna while I'm chanting, because I'm not pure enough yet. So this is a jnana mishra bhakti. First I have to become pure, and generally when people are saying that, they're thinking that they'll become pure by jnana, that they're going to become pure by philosophy and by detachment. Generally. Sometimes people are thinking they're going to become pure by works, by pious works. So that's karma mishra bhakti. Well, what's purifying me even is all the external service I'm doing for Krishna. That's what's purifying me. And I'm not allowed to become attached to Krishna until I become purified by working hard and being a good person by working hard. Or I can't become attached to Krishna until I'm perfect in my varna and ashram. That's karma mishra bhakti. And of course, yoga mishra bhakti is first I'm going to become pure through meditation. First I'm going to become pure by cleansing all the chakras and the sushumna and, you know, going into a trance and pratyahara. And then, after that, then I can become attached to Krishna. So, you know, that works. Karma mishra bhakti, jnana mishra bhakti, yoga mishra bhakti. They do work. They do work. But klesho dikataras tesham avyakta shakti tejasam avyakta higatir dukam dehavad bhiravapyate. They're very, very, very slow. They're very slow. And just like if you have this cup, and this, I gave this analogy the other day, I think here. If you have this cup is full of chemical juice, right? It's full of that fake juice that they sell in the store. That's not real juice. They sell that here in London, right? The sugar water with some color and flavor, and who knows what's in it, and it's useless nutritionally or even harmful nutritionally. So with these karma mishra, jnana mishra, and yoga mishra bhakti, what you're doing is you're first emptying out your cup and really cleaning it, and you have an empty cup, and then you try to become attached to Krishna. Now that might be a decent process if it was very quick. If your process of emptying out your cup and cleaning your cup happened in a moment, and then you could find attachment to Krishna, that might make some sense. But it doesn't. Why? Because we're souls. We want attachments. We want relationships. We want emotions. So we don't want to empty our cup. We don't want to be without emotions, without thoughts, without feelings, without desires. We don't want to. So we're fighting that process constantly. We don't want to be empty. It's very unnatural to be empty. Who wants to be empty? Okay, who of you would like to have an empty life? Who wants that? Nobody wants that. So because it's unnatural, that process takes many, 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 many lifetimes. And then you're so used to having an empty cup, you don't even want to fill it with Krishna. So the bhakti process is, okay, you got a cup full of this chemical stuff, start pouring in the real thing. You don't need karma, jnana, or yoga. At all. You don't need them at all. Just pour in the real thing. And pretty soon, your cup will be just full of the real thing. It'll be unadulterated. You'll have then only your active ingredient in your cup. And you can just imagine how potent that's going to be, right? So even in the beginning, you have a few drops of the active ingredient that's going to be quite potent. And you're going to have some wonderful experiences in bhakti, kevala nandakanda, right from the beginning, because you have some few drops of this active ingredient, which is, what is it? Affectionate attachment to Krishna. That's what it is. I mean, look at these guys. They've got partial Brahman realization. What better gift can you have than that? I mean, really. We might think, well, if I had a lot of money, I could do a lot of preaching. If I had a lot of fame, I could do a lot of preaching. If I had a lot of this, if I had a lot of that, it would really help me in my Krishna consciousness. You know, if I had a good husband, if I had a good wife, if I had a good job, if I had a nice place to stay, if I had the proper association, I mean, everybody has a list of what they feel would help them in their Krishna consciousness. Everybody has a list. Oh, if only I had this, it would help me in my... Well, if only you had that, if only you were already Brahman, realized you're already pure. Wow, that would help you in your Krishna consciousness. But without the affectionate attachment to Krishna, it's useless. This is useless. Many bursts. Because without the affectionate attachment to Krishna, by definition, one is an offender, because you're looking at something else and you have affectionate attachment to something else. Krishna's in front of us all the time. He's talking to us all the time. He's interacting with us all the time. So if ever we have affectionate attachment to something else, we are automatically offensive. Yes? Just like here, giving the class. So if there was somebody sitting there having their own private conversation, that would be disrespectful, wouldn't it? If you want to do that, why stay in the class? Go someplace else. If you're trying to have a relationship with someone, you're trying to have a conversation with someone, and they're texting to someone else on their phone, or they're sitting there reading the newspaper. You know, that's the typical cartoon, the man reading the newspaper in the morning while his wife's trying to talk to him. It's disrespectful. It's offensive. So when we have affectionate attachment to something or someone. We all do. We have to. That's the nature of the soul. So that automatically we're offensive. And then, frankly, it doesn't really matter what you do. It's going to take a very, 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 very long time. You can be so strict in this and so strict in that and so realizing this and so realizing that and so expert in this and realizing expert in that. And what does Prabhupada say? It's all a bunch of zeros. You can be rich, famous, beautiful, detached, Brahmin realized, expert in yoga, super pious. There's no value. There's no value. You're looking the other way. It doesn't matter how good of a car you have if you're looking the other way, does it? It doesn't get you anywhere. If you're bahir mukhe, if you're looking the other way. And how interesting here that Prabhupada, maha bahir mukhe, they're looking the other way. And that's a great offense. That's the ultimate offense, which is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that being attentive is the key to all the other offenses. And as soon as you're attentive, then all the other offenses will go away. Because all the other offenses are symptoms of bahir mukhe, of looking away. If you're attentive to Krishna, you're not going to offend his devotees. You're not going to offend his scriptures. You're not going to disobey his representative. You're not going to think his name is imaginary. You're not going to hold on to your material attachments. You're not going to do any of those things. If you're being attentive to Krishna, you just won't. Make sense to everybody? So this is the active ingredient. This is the accelerator. I mean, imagine if you had a whole cup full of only that. If your whole cup was filled with only this affectionate attachment for Krishna. Then, instant. Then instant. So this is the active ingredient. This is our accelerator. Whatever we're doing externally without this active ingredient, it doesn't have much value. It's just pious activities, really. Does that follow? It just becomes a pious activity. It becomes good karma. This is the essence of bhakti. This is what bhakti is. That I'm attentive to Krishna, and I'm attentive to Krishna with some affectionate attachment. I'm not attentive to Krishna for some other reason. I'm not attentive to Krishna to get something for myself or to manipulate Krishna or to use Krishna or to steal his energies. I'm attentive to Krishna with affectionate attachment. And if I do that, then the association of devotees, the association of the deity, the Carinamrita, everything can act instantly. to whatever extent I develop this affectionate attachment and attention to Krishna, then everything else acts instantly. Everything is ready. And to whatever extent I don't have that, then things can be lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, even if you're partially Brahmin realized. Wow. I mean, wow. And we see sometimes that it's these people in Sattva Gun that are the hardest to bring to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we see that. Prabhupada's going to talk about that in the next purport. How people in Rajagun and Tamagun, as long as they weren't offenders, it was easier for them to become devotees than people who were in Sattva Gun but were offensive. How fascinating. Because that is the essence of reality. The essence of reality is this love. That is the essence of the spiritual world. That's the essence of ultimate liberation. That's the essence of bhakti. This emotional, affectionate attachment. I care about you, Krishna. I care about your happiness. I want you to be happy because I care. You're important to me. In fact, you're the only important thing to me. You're the only important person to me. Everyone else is only important to me in relationship to you. And I'm there for you. I trust that you're there for me, and I'm there for you. I'm ready. I'm available to serve you as you like. So that is love. So questions, comments, corrections, additions, subtractions? Yes?
Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class. So, there's conditioned souls. So as conditioned souls, so our attachment to Krishna is covered over. That's how I understand it. So is it the case that if we're attentive whilst we're practicing devotional service, then is that like what you said about filling the cup with the...
Yes, but attentive to what? So we're attentive to both what we're doing, that we're trying to do what we're doing very nicely, and we're also attentive to for whom we're doing it and why. So we're attentive to what, we're attentive to for whom, and we're attentive to why. We're not only attentive to what. And we're not only even attentive to for whom. If you think about it, let's say the wife is cooking for her family and a hired servant is cooking for the family. So they're both going to be attentive to what? They're going to be attentive to what they're doing. Or as you guys say, what? They're going to be attentive to what they're doing. And they're going to be both attentive to for whom. The servant is also trying to please the family. If the servant doesn't please the family, the servant will lose her job. So both the wife and the servant are attentive to the cooking itself, and they're attentive to the person for whom they're cooking. But the why is completely different. One person's why is to get a job, and the other person's why is to have a loving relationship. So whatever we're doing, we should be attentive to all three. What we're doing. And if I love somebody, I'm not going to do a shoddy job of anything. Therefore, one of the devotee's qualities is daksha, or expert. Prabhupada said that the brahmachari should be trained to know something of everything and everything of something. The brahmacharis and the Gurukul students, they should be trained to know something of everything and everything of something. So we should become expert in our service, whether it's dressing the deity or whether it's pulling leaves off of the plants over there, or whatever it is that we're doing. What is that? What is that? What is that? Huh? Fenugreek. Okay. So whether you're pulling leaves off of fenugreek stems or whatever you may be doing, changing your baby's nappy, driving your car. So one should become expert at the act itself. One should be attentive to the act itself. One should be attentive to for whom I'm doing it. Bhoktaram Yagatapasam. I'm doing it for Krishna. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for Krishna. I'm not doing it for me. So just like I can be doing something, not concerned about the activity exactly, but I'm trying to impress somebody. Yes? Right? I can be doing something But my attention is on somebody who's watching me. We've all had this experience? Okay. So you want to be attentive not just to the activity, but also who's watching you. Krishna's watching you. You're doing it for Krishna. And then why? Because you really like Krishna. So how are you going to get to really like Krishna? How are you going to get that why bit? I mean, it's pretty easy for us to be attentive to the what. We pretty much know how to do that. Unless the what is something that's particularly boring for us. But we pretty much know how to be attentive to the what. We tend to forget about being attentive to the for whom and think I'm doing it for myself. The evidence of that is when we become angry when our activity doesn't yield a particular result. That's the evidence that we have the wrong for whom. I do this activity and I don't get something in return. And the same with the why. If we have the wrong why, we also become angry and bitter and disappointed if we don't get what we expect in return. So for whom is pretty easy. I mean, you just meditate that Krishna's in your heart, Krishna's in every atom, and he's the one who's watching. He's the one you need to impress. He's the one you need to please. And then how do you develop the why? Association of devotees, reading, hearing, with a mood to develop attachment, with that being your purpose. So to have that intention. And again, we know exactly how to do that. We all know how to do that. If a man and woman are what we call in ISKCON associating with the purpose of trying to think, am I going to marry this person? What are they trying to do in that association? What is their intention? What is their purpose? They're trying to develop what? Attachment, correct? They both know that. They know that. They're sitting down, maybe they're reading Bhagavatam together, they're taking prasadam together, talking together, and they know very well the reason that we're sitting and talking together is to develop an attachment for each other. Am I correct? Yes? 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 So we all know how to do that. This is not some science that needs to be explained. We all know how to do something for the purpose of developing an attachment. I assume everybody here has at least one friend? Does everybody here have at least, I hope, please? Everybody has at least one good friend? And you're with that friend for no purpose other than to develop and increase your attachment. I mean, externally, you may be doing something with them. So externally, you're playing a game with them, or you're talking with them, or you're working on something together. But your purpose in doing it with them is to develop attachment. And you might just be hanging out with them. You might not even be doing anything in particular with them. Don't people do that? Just kind of hang out with their friends? Why are they doing that? The why is to simply develop that attachment and develop that relationship and that sharing. So we all know how to do that. That's not some, mysterious science for the greatly spiritually advanced. And first you have to have no material desires and be floating in the Brahman, and then you can do it. We all know how to do that. And gosh, the animals know how to do it. Doing something for the purpose of attachment is intrinsic to the soul. Therefore, there's that prayer. Krishna may become attached to you like the young boy and young girl are naturally attached to each other. So just access that. Just think about, how do I do that? How do I do that with my friends? How do I do that with my child? How do I do that with my spouse? How do I do that with a dog? How do I do that? How do I be with another living entity with the intention of becoming attached to this person and increasing my attachment? What exactly do I do? And do that with Krishna. You already know what it is. It's not like you have to learn it from anybody else. It's not like some pure devotee has to teach it to you. Is that clear? We already know. We already have the science down 100%. We just have to change the object. So you can analyze. What am I doing? Do that for Krishna. And if we did everything in bhakti like that, And you can do everything like that except for grossly sinful activities like illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, gambling, murder, lying, cheating, stealing. You can't run the mafia like that. But, other than those things, you can do them with attention to the what, attention to the for whom, and attention to the why. Yes, yes.
Could we say that that's very good, but then to do that, it seems to be simple and natural, but it is all?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. It seems to be logical.
Yes.
Simple.
Yes.
But.
Yes. But. But.
We need something.
What do we need?
We need a mercy of pure devotee.
But the mercy of pure devotee is already there, Prabhu.
Because
That we have. That we have.
Mm-hmm.
At least all of us in this room. Now, if we're going to say,
because of the purpose sake for the Mayavadis, they have to associate with pure devotee.
but we already have that.
Okay.
So that's not a but for us.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to talk
I'm
about,
talking in general.
if you're talking about Joe Smith down the street, okay.
Right.
All right. But once you talk to Joe Smith down the street, then he's got the mercy right there. So that's finished. So,
That's what I mean.
so the moment that you go talk to Joe Smith about this, he's immediately got the mercy. So that problem is solved.
So we should go and talk to everybody.
Sounds like a very good idea. But as far as everybody here, we already have that. That's already there.
I agree.
Yeah, that's for sure. All you need is a lava matra. Right? All you need is 1/11 of a second. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. Sarva Siddhi Koi. Sadhu Sarva Shastra Koi. Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoi. So all the Shastras are saying if you just get an 11th of a second association with the pure devotee, you get all perfection. Have we all had 11th of a second association with the pure devotee? Some of you are not sure. So, believe me, you have. How did you? We just read Caitanya Caritamrita, my dear friends. So if you've been here for an hour, then you had more than 11th of a second association with the pure devotee because you associated with Srila Prabhupada in his purports, you associated with Krishna Das Kaviraj in his verses, and you associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was speaking these verses. So, you got it. Done. No more excuses. No more, but I need. No, done. Have it. It's already there. Yes.
How do we increase faith that Krishna is always watching us and his pleasure is real?
Start acting on that faith. Pretend you believe it. Do you believe it at least to some extent? Do you have some faith? I mean, at least theoretically it sounds reasonable that God's everywhere? Is that at least theoretically, logically reasonable? Can you at least get like one tiny grain of faith that God is everywhere? Can you manage that? All right. And then Krishna says, I'm everywhere. Says, I'm in your heart. Do we at least sometimes have experiences that there's somebody in our heart giving us good guidance? Do we sometimes have that experience? And sometimes it's really mystical, yes? I'm thinking of a story, but it would take too long to tell the story. But I'm sure you all have your stories of how you just got this impression that you should go somewhere or do something, and it was amazing. Wow. Or this, instant knowledge of something, yes? How did I know that? That happens to me sometimes when people ask me a question in a class, and my first feeling is, I don't know. And then all of a sudden I know. And I'm listening to my answer, wondering how I'm giving the answer. We all have experiences like this that you just know. So you have some theoretical, logical that God is probably everywhere. I mean, how does he manage everything? It's a lot to manage. And how does he coordinate everything? How does he coordinate everybody's karma? That's sort of one of those inconceivable, amazing, wow things. When I had 30 students in a class all working individually, trying to coordinate what everybody was doing, it took me hours and hours and hours to work out the schedule. How to coordinate 30 different people doing 30 different things. What to speak of, 7 billion people, what to speak of all the microbes, what to speak of all the planets. So in order to do that, you pretty much have to be aware of everything. How do you coordinate gazillion, billion, millions, million jivas stuff if you're not everywhere? So logically, must be. And things are well coordinated, are they not? And then we have practical experience. So start with that. I believe it logically, I have practical experience, so I'm going to at least accept, at least theoretically, that probably somebody's watching me. And that somebody is probably right here, and that someone is probably quite concerned with how I do things. This is someone who cares how I do things. And just operate on that principle. And then he'll be very, 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 very happy that you're doing that, and he'll reciprocate with you. Imagine if you've been in the room with somebody for a long time and you've been ignoring them, and all of a sudden you start paying attention to them. Especially if they've been trying to get your attention for a long time. Someone's trying to get your attention. Like Prabhupada says, Krishna is eager to talk with us. So Krishna is trying to get our attention. I read a really funny story about this one man who went through all kinds of horrible diseases, and it was really, he was suffering so much physically. And at one point he went to have a treatment, and the treatment had complications, so he had to stay in the hospital overnight. And while he was in the hospital overnight, alone in the room, all of a sudden he heard a voice speaking to him. And he asked, he could understand that God was speaking to him, and he said, why has this happened to me? He said, otherwise I couldn't get your attention. You were always so busy. So Krishna's there trying to get our attention. He's trying to get our attention. I know another story like that with a Christian minister, where he said he was working 100, 120 hours a week, being a Christian minister, and he was having a minor operation. And something went wrong, and they cut one of the main blood vessels in his abdomen, and he was bleeding to death. He had an out-of-body experience, near-death experience. He was floating on the ceiling, and also he heard a voice. And he said, why are you doing so much? You never talk to me. You're always so busy in my work, but you never talk to me. You never acknowledge me. You're never there for me. So Krishna's there trying to talk to us. And when you start acknowledging, even on a theoretical level, just acknowledge. Oh, he's here. He cares. Start talking to him. Do you like what I'm doing? You don't have to say it out loud so people will think you're crazy, but you can. Just like you talk to another person. Hey, look, I just rolled that samosa in a perfect circle. You say it to Krishna. Hey, Krishna, I just rolled this samosa in a perfect circle. Doing it like that. Do you like how I did it? And I'm frying this for you. What do you think? Look at that. It's popping up in the ghee. Talk to him. And then he'll reciprocate. He'll be so happy. Oh, you're finally paying attention to me. I've been trying for so many. What did it say in the Madhya 17.143? Krishna says, I've been dancing like a fool for so many lifetimes, waiting for you to turn to me. Somebody else? Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
As a neophyte devotee, is it just as effective in sort of getting love for attachment for Krishna to serve the Vaishnavas?
It's nice to hold the microphone, but if it's not next to your mouth, it's not very effective.
In terms of trying to foster attachment for Krishna, is it just as effective to be serving the Vaishnavas, just focusing on that?
Yes, if your purpose in serving the Vaishnavas is to please Krishna, yes, definitely. In fact, that will be more effective than trying to please Krishna directly. But if your purpose in serving the Vaishnavas is the way that we try to serve people materially, then the answer is very much no. So if you're trying to serve the Vaishnavas in the same way we try to serve people in the world, so that they will be impressed with us, so that they will like us, so that they will give us something. If we think that that person is the source of something for me, then absolutely no. That will not work at all. In fact, it will bring you bitterness, disappointment, resentment, anger, and at one point you'll say, I'm tired of this Hare Krishna movement. And we see that over and 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 over again. I gave so much to the devotees, and the devotees will disappoint you, for sure, absolutely, positively, for sure, if you serve them like that, because none of them are God. Even Arjuna is not God. Therefore, Krishna said, many lives I have passed, I remember all of them, but you do not. And Prabhupada said, this is the difference even between a liberated jiva and God. Even a liberated jiva is not God. It's not that you go to the guru and you say, Janaka Janani Daita Tanai Prabhu Guru Patituhu Sarvamoy. You don't even go to the guru like that. You're my mother, you're my father, you're my lover, you're my son, you're my everything to me. The guru would go, whoa, I don't think so. So, you know, you have to be very, 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 very careful that when you're dealing with the devotees, it's to please Krishna, not to please the devotees separately from Krishna. So be extremely, extremely careful. At the same time, pleasing the devotees is the fastest way to please Krishna. Duh. And the easiest way to please Krishna. Krishna has everything, you know, but some devotee may not have a pair of socks. Give a pair of socks to Krishna, he's like, I already own all the socks in the universe. You give some pair of socks to the devotees and they may be very happy, and then Krishna's happy that you gave some socks to his devotee. You follow? See, most religious people worship God to impress humans. See how nicely I'm worshiping God? See? See? So we should deal with humans to impress God. Everything we're doing should be to impress God. Not to impress, we're not trying to please anybody separately from God. And what's really, really nice about that is if you try to please everybody in order to please God, you will also really care about pleasing them. But if you try to please them separately, then it becomes self-centered. Is that clear? Is that? So fastest way to please Krishna is by pleasing his devotees. But by pleasing his devotees to please him. Not to please his devotees for any other purpose. Not to try to have a separate relationship with his devotees. Is that all right? Very good. Yes, we're going late, I know. But there's no authority here, so it's all right. Well, the cat's away, you know. Maybe Johnny Tai is listening over the internet. Sorry. I'm sorry. I have no idea why anybody let me in this movement or allows me to stay in this movement. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
So, Manaji, I want just to wrap up everything because why?
Because you want to have breakfast.
Personally, I'm okay.
Okay.
For everybody, that's maybe. But I was just saying that, you know, when we hear all those things, some people, and they find it very difficult, they find it complicated. How can I develop that? How can I? They think they're gonna aim that love and affection from somewhere else. That's what they're trying to figure out. How to get it.
It's already there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's already there.
Let me just say Krishna again. So now we have that already.
Yes.
So what's the work we have to do in order to revive that? Basically, to revive it.
Well, one of my favorite lectures that I've listened to so many times that I can't even count how many times I've listened to it. I probably listened to it well over 100 times. Is a lecture Prabhupada gave in Sanan, India on Bhagavad Gita 7.1, Maya Shaktamana Prartha. And he says, you already know how to be attached, and you're already attached, just transfer the object. We already know. And if you're not sure, then sit down for 10 minutes today and think about it. What am I attached to? Who am I attached to? How do I do that? How do I do it? If you're attached to your computer, if you're attached to your socks, if you're attached to your mother, if you're attached to your dog, whatever you're attached, we're all attached to something, yes? If you're attached to your own body, if you're attached to your own self. How do we do that? What do we do? Because it's already there. We're taking the natural attachment that's for Krishna, that's already there, and we're giving it to Krishna's energy separate from Krishna. But the process of being attached and the process of giving that attachment is exactly the same. It's not a difference in the process. The only difference is in the object. There just isn't any other difference. So to take what you already have, Prabhupada was speaking in this lecture to a general audience. He was not speaking in this lecture, I mean it was India, but still it was a general audience. He was not speaking to devotees. And he's saying this over and over again. You already have attachment. Just transfer it to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a song like that. He said, whatever attachment I have to things in this world, let me have as much attachment to you, Krishna.
He says, if
There we go, scholar. So that it's really, really, really simple. But Prabhupada says people don't want the simple process. They don't want it to be simple. They don't want to touch their nose like this. They want to touch their nose like this. And if you say it's a simple process, just chant Hare Krishna with attachment to Krishna, it's got to be more complicated. I need something else. I have to do Dandavat Parakram of Govardhan Hill while fasting from water, and putting dust on my head from all the devotees at the same time. And, I've got to learn how to pronounce the Rig Veda with proper pronunciation. I've got to realize Brahman first. I've got to perfectly do my Varna and Ashrama. No, just hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, serve Krishna with affectionate attachment, with developing affectionate attachment. Do it for Krishna with affectionate attachment. As Krishna, not whimsically, as Krishna gives in the Shastra. That's all. And if one does that, everything's very fast. And if everything's not very fast, we're probably not doing that. We're probably doing something else. Either we're mixing our bhakti, or we're not working with attachment and affection. But this is not... I was just hearing Prabhupada just 2 days ago. He said no one has to be taught how to become attracted to the opposite sex. Or for some people, the same sex. But nobody needs to be taught how to have sexual attraction. You don't need a class. They don't have any classes in school because it's not necessary. How to feel sexual attraction. It's just natural. You get to a certain age and it's just there. So he said nobody needs to be taught how to become attached to Krishna. It's just there. It's just a question of making a deliberate attempt. In the beginning, it's a deliberate attempt to cultivate it, to switch the object. Instead of being so attached to my wife, my husband, my computer, my dog, my body, whatever we're attached to. Find that Krishna is my shelter. I care about you. You're important to me. I'm there for you. Those are the basic 3 principles of attachment. Is that all right? And then Prabhupada says immediately, otherwise many, 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 many births, no matter how qualified you are. Did you have a question, Prabhu?
Yeah, I wrote it.
Okay.
Maybe it's not almost like this topic of the story, but something related to virtue.
Yeah.
What is that service or the prayers or association we cultivate to be free from the hidden motive, duplicity, pretentious nature, and impersonalism, and sahaja mentality?
Whoa, you had a whole list.
And hypocrite. Oh, just writing now.
Madhya Kadambini. Madhya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving all the obstacles, all the blocks. The blocks from past sinful activities, the blocks from past pious activities, the blocks from the perks we get in bhakti, the blocks from our offenses. He says all of these can be removed by the process of bhakti, particularly by chanting, but not only by chanting. You can attain perfection by any process of bhakti. You can attain perfection by drinking Charanamrita. You can attain perfection by following the Rath Yatra cart, by seeing the deity. Any process of bhakti. And then he says, but specifically chanting. Then he said the problem is you have the offenses on chanting, and those can be destroyed by attention. So that's the only thing you need to worry about. Just one thing, that's enough. That's your active ingredient. That's your medicine. And it's a really nice medicine. It will take care of all the symptoms. You don't need to worry about the symptoms individually. Just like Krishna talks about this banyan tree. The material was like this complicated banyan tree. And he doesn't say, well, first prune it. Cut off this branch and this leaf and this branch. Krishna does that with us mostly, I see, to give us faith. So as we're going on in bhakti, we're not really willing to cut down the whole tree immediately. So Krishna says, okay, you have this little anartha, and then we let go of that, branch cut off. We go, whew, does that feel good, losing that branch? And then we get some confidence that eventually Krishna says, okay, can we take the whole tree out now? In the beginning, when Krishna says, can we take the whole tree out, we're like, no. So, with our permission, only with our permission, by being attentive in our bhakti, attentive to the what, attentive to the for whom, and attentive to the why. We're cutting off these branches. And eventually, then Krishna says, with the weapon of knowledge and detachment, cut down, bless you, cut down the whole tree. So that's the key. You don't really have to worry about anything else. If you're doing that right, everything else will come naturally. Doesn't Krishna say that? Tesham sadachiktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mamu payanti te tesham evanukam partam aham agyanajantamaha nasayam yatma bhavosto gyana dipena vashruta. If you're just doing what? Machchita magata pranam bodhiyantas prasran katayantastamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. If you're getting your satisfaction and bliss from being attentive to Krishna, instead of getting your satisfaction and bliss from something else. Get your satisfaction and bliss from being attentive to Krishna, and he'll show you everything you have to do. He's very good at it. He has no problem. Krishna will show you how to get rid of everything on your list, either piece by piece or eventually all at one go. He'll do piece by piece to give you faith in the beginning. Eventually he'll just say, okay, you ready for the whole thing? And finally you'll be, yeah. And then he goes, okay, let's do the whole thing. Gone. So he's the best teacher. He'll work through your guru, he'll work through the Shastra, he'll work through the other Vaishnavas, he may work through some guy in the street. Yes? He may work through you seeing the birds in the trees. He may work in so many ways. I mean, he has so many ways to communicate. Correct? The 11th canto, all the different gurus. Krishna has no problem whatsoever helping you get rid of everything you need to get rid of and giving you everything you need. Yogakshema vaham yaham. He has no problem with it. You don't need to worry about that. Nir yogakshema atmavan. Don't worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about how am I going to get rid of my anarchas, how am I going to take care of this, how am I going to get this, how am I going to get rid of this, what am I going to do about this, what am I going to do, how am I going to advance. You don't need to worry about any of that. All you have to worry about is being attentive to the what, the why, and the whom. Be attentive to Krishna. He's the best teacher. He's the param guru. He loves you. He wants you to progress as quickly as possible. He wants you to progress as painlessly as possible. He wants to get rid of all of your disease symptoms. He wants that 100 times more than you want it. And he'll take care of you in so many different ways. How will he do it? I don't know. He'll do it in so many ways. Yes? Yes. That's his job. That's his job. That's not actually our job. That's his job. But you've got to make yourself available. The doctor is not going to come to your house at midnight and operate on you without your permission. That's not going to happen. You have to willingly submit. You have to be there. If you're there, he'll do it. You don't do it. You simply want to do it, you make yourself available to do it, and you do that by being attentive and attached to Krishna, and he'll guide you. He'll guide you every step of the way. Is that okay? Is that a good wrap-up? I think we should end now. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai. Krishna Das Kaviraj ki jai. ISKCON Soho ki jai.